Hi, Gerry. Hi, Corinna. Well, I hope this will be a nice surprise for you. Dan is recording this, and it's just mostly to tell you how much I love you too. You've been such a joy in my life. In my heart, you're both absolutely wonderful, and you're both incredibly loved. I love you both equally, and that is always how it has been, and that is how it will be until I close my eyes. I love you. When I was pregnant with Gerry, I was convinced, and so was my mother, that he was going to be a soccer player because he would kick me endlessly, and I could actually grab his foot lots of times on the side of my belly to have him stop kicking. Gerry, he would kick me mercilessly, and I became nauseous. Every morning I was nauseous, and that lasted for several months. And but then when it stopped, I said, you're such a good baby now that I can't wait to meet you, because you're not kicking me anymore, you're not making me burp anymore, you're not making any of that anymore. So now I'm very eager for you to meet you as a little person. Oh, his birth was as unusual as Gerry, actually. It fits him really well. My mom was with me, and it was about, maybe 4:45. We were sitting around our table and in Colorado Springs, and my mom said, "Are you in labor pains?" I said, "I don't know, Mom, I just feel pressure." And then she said, "My gosh, you have it every 5 minutes. I better go find somebody that will take you to the hospital." Gerry was in some kind of jungle training school on some island, so I was alone with my mother. There was no way I could drive a car being in labor, and we lived outside of Fort Carson, Colorado, and so my mom, she just left and went house to house until she found somebody that spoke German. And she said, "My daughter is in labor and she needs somebody to take her to the hospital." And to me, it seems it has to be pretty quick. And the lady was German, so my mom could speak German. Her name was Gerlinde. And she said, "Well, my husband just came home from work, was about 5:15 or so, and he can take your daughter to the hospital." So he took me to the hospital, and within 20 minutes or so, Gerry was born. And his little legs were kicking, and he was screaming, letting me know he was a boy. And they laid him naked, they laid him next to you. So while they clean you up and do whatever they do, you can watch your baby lying next to you. And he was going with his little fists and screaming like he couldn't. Every time he screamed to me, he was trying to scream harder and louder. I said, "Boy, he's got good lungs, thank God for that." And but what happened was, when I was back home, I went to thank Gerlinde and her husband, and I said, what was his name? I think John. I said, "John, you acted kind of weird walking me down that hall. What was it?" Ah, he said, Sigrid, I took my wife the week before to have our baby, and then to walk you down, you know, in labor. That was a little, and everybody stared, a few people stared at him like they seemed to recognize him or something. I thought that was kind of funny. One thing I dearly loved about you, Gerry, was you were all boy, because you went down the street, you loved Christmas lights, and you unscrewed all their lights and popped them in the street. And he took those huge, big nails that they use in a harbor, and you hammered them in our posts on the house, and all the posts split, and we had to take them off. And I mean, he was so mischievous. Every morning, the eggs were broken, but they were in the skillet, thank God. He took the skillet out and broke the eggs in the skillet. And every morning they were broken. But one more, the egg yolks. I noticed it after a few days. What he did is, next to the refrigerator were 4 drawers, and he put the drawers out like a ladder, and he would walk up to them to get on the counter, and that's where he would take the eggs down, because every night before I went to bed, I put the eggs up there so he couldn't get them. And he would get the eggs down and crack them. And one morning he had all 12 eggs in the skillet and no egg yolk was broken, and that's when he stopped doing it. Another thing he did that I had to totally change, he took the broom and went to the front door and he slit the lock over, and we lived very close to the freeway. And one morning I caught him, I looked out and I saw the door was open. That's when I caught that he did that. The door was open, he was down by the corner, and I ran out there with my nightgown before he could get to the highway, because the highway was the next block. I mean, the end of the block where he was on. And I picked him up and I said, "You don't do that, you don't do that." And oh, I was so incredibly devastated. I cried and cried and cried. And so I had the man take down the lock. I called him some kind of guy, handyman. He took down that chain lock that he could no longer open with the broomstick, slide it over. And he put a bolt up there that you had to actually slide with your finger. And it was very hard to do, to get it into that little loop that would lock it. And then he wasn't able to do it anymore. When he was 2 years old, we lived in a condo, and there was an identical condo across from us. There was only a yard dividing us. And a Navy man lived in the apartment that was facing our apartment. And he came out the door, my son was over there, and I didn't think nothing of it. He didn't do anything bad that I could think of, but I also didn't see no hose. And he was over there, and the man came out in a white Navy suit with a cap and a Navy, and suddenly I saw Gerry with this hose and a stream of water. And he was going up and down, up and down. And that man went, and he was spitting, because he hit his face. And I tell you, I had to laugh too, but I had to stop laughing and go out there and pick him up and say, "You don't do that, you know." But when I carried him in the house, Gerry kept kept turning around, looking at the guy, kept looking over there. Another time too, I bought him brand new long pants. He was big enough to wear long pants instead of shorts. And we had a slide right next to there was a house next to us, and then there was a slide going down, a cement slide. And I guess it's one of those slides, I don't know for sure, maybe Dan, you know. It was a slide, it looked like cement, but after you slide on it, slide down a lot, it kind of turns black and it gets real shiny. But until it gets that way, boy, do they ever rip up their pants, because it's all cement. It doesn't make you slide. And I tell you, Gerry went through 15 pairs of pants a week that the bottom would be out, him sliding, running over there, sliding down, coming up, sliding down. And sometimes 20 minutes, a half-hour lapse before I caught on. I had to buy him so many pants, you have no idea. Well, we had a devotee, Larry Marshall, and he knew this lady in Berkeley who was the widow of a minister that was leading lots of churches, I guess. And she grew strawberries in her backyard and other things. I saw sticks. I assumed she was growing green beans. I don't really know. But anyway, so Gerry went out there and in the back where the strawberries were and stuff. And I said, Gerry, you can't go back there. I said, stay where I can see you. So she said, no, it's all right. He can go back there. Nothing can hurt him. Well, she didn't know Gerry. So Gerry came back to the house outside, and I guess he turned the water on. He had to turn the water on because there was a hose lying there. And when as he walked back there, I saw him pick up the hose and spraying to his left. And one time I saw this thing popping up, and I went. He took out all those aardbeer bushes in the ground. He learned how to put the hose in his hand, and the power was so strong, the water power, that those strawberries just popped out of the ground. Every one he got to, it just popped out. And I went out, I said, no, 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 no. And all those strawberries were going down the side of the road, down into the main street. How he could find things, he always found something when we went somewhere that would get him in trouble, always. Oh, one day we went to the Monterey airport, and I don't know if we picked up some, I don't know why, but we went up, you have to go upstairs, I think, and there was like a barrier around. When you came out the door, there was this barrier, 2 rows of metal things that kept you where you are. But to the left it extended, the ledge we were standing on extended all the way to the corner of the building, but there was no longer that protection. And in no time, Gerry got his 2 legs over that second bar, and he was on the other side, going backwards. And I said, Gerry, stop. And I tell you, I jumped over that thing and I ran to keep him from falling down on the other end. And That whole section was windows with people inside in the restaurant. And thank God, nobody in there moved. Nobody got his attention. They were all like, you know. And I did spank his butt a little bit. I said, you never do that again, never do that again. The ledge upstairs, I mean, you know, airport ceilings are very high. And the upstairs, and if he had kept going backwards, he wasn't walking, he was actually like running a little bit backwards and fell off that ledge, I think he would have been dead. Because there was nothing but cement down below. That's a scare, even now, it shudders me when I think about it. Gerry had problems when he came, and he was a very late speaker. When he began to talk, I could tell right away that he would stutter, and but I ignored it. I didn't really recognize it. I was torn because on the one hand, I wanted him to know I would be aware, because kids, if he goes to kindergarten and school, kids will be aware, and I wanted him to be able to deal with it. And so, you know, I put Corinna and Gerry in front of me, and Corinna was always sick with her kidneys and this and that and hospitals. And so I said, you know, children, we all come with something, and you two got a load. You two got a load. And, but Gerry, with his speech, it's going to be, I told Gerry, it's going to be very tough, because Gerry told me one time, Mommy, I know everybody's laughing at me when I talk, but I can tell it by their face. And I said, well, that's probably true what you see, and some of them, when you talk, might laugh at you, but you have to be bigger than that, because everybody has something that they would not want somebody else to know. And a lot of things that people have, other people may never know, but you happen to study, and a lot of people will know that, they will notice that. And if somebody makes fun of you, if you could muster up and just go to them and go da 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 da, you know, see what response you get doing that. I would confront it in a funny way. Sometimes, you know, Gerry would come home and his little head was hanging down. I knew he was sad. So when he came in, he said, "Ah, oh, finally, there comes my little man." And I would take his hand, walk him in. I said, "Sweetie, come sit on my lap. I need to hold you for a little bit." And then I would outright ask him, I said, "Did anybody laugh at you today?" And sometimes he would say, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I am so proud of you, sweetheart. You don't know how strong you have to be to go every day in a situation where that can happen to you. I mean, it takes a strong person to keep doing it and facing it. And I just want you to know, I don't know how to help you with it. You have to go to school. But I do want you to know how proud I am of you. And I also know how that must feel." I ended a phase where my children gotten older, and I truly, truly believed that they needed to be exposed to God. And but you know, there were so many religions out there that I couldn't buy into it, so I couldn't expect my children to buy into it. And So Corinna went with a little girl to some Christian church. I think it was in Monterey. And she came home, she said, "Oh, Mommy, no, I don't want to go back." So I said, "You don't have to." And, and you know, there was a lot of Christian talk around us and churches and this and that. And we also, you know, I tried to go to several, and but my kids were just not with it. They were not with it. So when I read the autobiography, and we had a church in Richmond later, and we started out in somebody's home in Berkeley, and we went there, and the children had Sunday school, Gerry with the boys, Corinna with the girls, and they equally came out beaming, "Mommy, oh, we have to come back here. This is what we really, really like." And I looked up and I said, "Thank you, God, thank you, God. That means so much to me, that my children have found an avenue where they learn about you and they're willing to accept you for real." And so that's how we became Self-Realization Fellowship members. And that was our church from then on. Yeah, both my children had really, really serious issue not being allowed to go to Sunday school anymore because of their age. And you know, I told them that many, many things in life, children are very, very welcome, and there comes a certain point where it doesn't fit them anymore. And that's the same thing with Sunday school. In Sunday school, they have a lot of little arts and crafts and little things that keep them busy and cutesy stories. But you know, when you get older and you actually attend services, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different level. And we all have to aspire to that. And once I told them, once you get used to that, you wouldn't want to go back to the little kids and this and that. Well, they grew up, and and they could see how devoted I was. And every Sunday we went to church. They never, ever had a complaint. "Oh, Mommy, can we stay home one Sunday?" I never, never once heard that from either one of them. And they could tell how, I think they could tell how devoted I was. And so they're both adults. They went to youth camp. They participated in some of the picnics and all these things, and began to get to know our ministers and all that. And they both just naturally became Kriyabans. And right now my son is 59, and Corinna is 62, and they are still as devoted to Guruji as they have always been. And there's really absolutely nothing that makes me happier than the two of you following Guruji's path. What I really, and I personally had nothing to do with it, but out of their own free will, Gerry is serving in Encinitas. Corinna serves in Fullerton. Corinna has revamped pretty much the Sunday school. She has pretty much created a Christmas tree that is to her liking. She's very fuzzy and loves very intricate, very beautiful, beautiful ornaments. And so her mission has kind of been to do the Christmas tree every year. And they both, of course, became Kriyabans. And anyway, my kids are SRF people, and that gives me a lot of comfort. I just love it. There's absolutely nothing more gratifying and satisfying knowing that your children, that the children and I share our faith together. And we're loyal, we're committed. Master is our guru, and that's solid. And it has been solid since around 1970. And I am very, very happy about that. My children couldn't have done anything. They could have been cool, whatever, in universities, whatever, graduating, and that wouldn't have touched me as much as it's touched me for both my children having Kriya. They both are loyal to Guruji's teaching, and Corinna taught her children, and Gerry's wife is as committed to Guruji's path as Gerry is. And, you know, I'm just very blessed that way. And my husband and I, we got married in SRF 38 years ago, and we still love Guruji now as we have always loved him. Both my children, Gerry and Corinna, spouses are Kriyabans, and they too embrace Master's teachings. And as far as I know, they are very, very loyal to what they chose to follow. But above all, your devotees, and that's what I treasure more than anything. Forgive me if you don't think that's fair or good enough, but you two being devotees and Kriyabans and serving Guruji, it's the absolute best. I love you. I actually encouraged both my children. I wanted them to think on how they can best live their lives, and I didn't want to burden them having to think that they would have 4 years of college and that kind of stuff, you know. I wanted them to think to what they would really like to do and see how they could attain it. But I did want them to have some kind of profession. The years passed very, very quickly, and Corinna became a nurse. She became an LVN. They moved to Vallejo, they bought a house. Gerry became a software engineer, and both children have done extremely much better than their mother. I worked in the cannery stacking boxes. They never had to do that. They had really professional jobs, and I'm very, very proud of them. Both my children really had incredibly good hearts. They were always aware of the underdog. They were always aware of the underdog, and I always loved that about them. I took a family in one time with 3 children, where my children were forced to share their bedrooms. They never complained about it, and you know, they lived with us for like 4 to 6 weeks or something. But my children never complained about that. They, you know, they accepted it, and they were okay with it. But they were also very, very happy when they got their rooms back, you know. Corinna even became a licensed LVN and did home health, helping a lot of people. I remember one Thanksgiving when we were at her house, and she lived in where she lives now, Claremont, and she was fixing, I don't remember how many plates. I said, what is that for? She said, oh, Mom, we have so many people that live by themselves, and today is Thanksgiving, and I want to bring them a Thanksgiving dinner. And I said, you know, sweetheart, that is so incredibly wonderful. I'm so happy you're doing that. just to also mention how good-hearted Gerry could be, like Corinna. Both my children are very good-hearted, and I always treasure that about them. We were at Big Bear, and Gerry was with us, and there was a 14-year-old boy in the parking lot, and Gerry went over there and asked him, said, "Oh, hi, buddy," and kind of how you make talk. And I guess the boy let him know that he somehow lost his backpack and his money was in there. And I don't know all the detail, but Gerry said, "Are you hungry? You must be hungry. Come, let's go over to Jack in the Box. I'm going to buy you a dinner." And he took him over there and treated him to a dinner. I love that, I just love that about my children. My mom was, 90% bedridden, and but Gerry and Corinna, they were a big help to me when it came to me having a little bit of free time. Every Saturday, one Saturday morning, Gerry came to me and said, "Mom, I watch Oma for you. Why don't you go to Hermes and have some coffee with those Germans?" And I said, "Oh no, because you don't know how to change Oma and stuff like that." He said, "Well, teach me. I can do it if you teach me." And so I said, "The most important thing is, Gerry, that you never put the diaper on her so hard that it pinches her skin, because that's, So he never had to change her. I always came home very quickly where I could do it myself. And Corinna, she would watch my mom with Stephen. And so both my children were actually very, very supportive. But the most important thing that I loved more than anything was how much they loved their Oma. They both loved her very much. And and like I said, Corinna was married, and she and Stephen lived in an apartment not far from where we lived. And so Gerry lived at home with Oma and me, and every morning after I bathed Oma and got her ready, Gerry would come and carry her out and put her on the couch for me. And sometimes he would feed her a little ice cream or a little pudding or something. But I didn't let him do that a whole lot because I didn't know if she could choke or not. And so both my children were incredibly. Corinna, I know one morning, actually the morning my mom passed away, Corinna called. It was still dark outside. And she said, "Mom, can I come over? I want to be with Oma." I said, "Sure, sweetheart, come on over." And she came over and she laid next to my mom. And that's the morning she passed away. And Corinna was right there with her. Gerry came upstairs, I guess when he heard Corinna was there or something. He came upstairs and he was sitting by my mom's feet, and he was rubbing her feet. He always rubbed her feet. And then Gerry and Dan came out from the garage, that where he had a bedroom, and Dan came out and he played the harmonium for Oma. And that's the morning when she actually passed away. The one thing, Gerry was a great help, because it was kind of hard at times for me to get Oma out of bed. I would have to put her legs down, and then I would have to kind of pick her up and put her in a wheelchair. And sometimes, one time she almost slipped when I got her out of bed, slipped totally through, and I just caught her in the last minute under her arms. But lifting her was so hard because I had to get in the wheelchair. But Gerry, many, many times in the morning before he would leave, he would pick up Oma from bed and he would carry her and put her out on the couch. My kids were really very, very thoughtful, and I think they deeply loved my mom, which I always appreciated. I don't know what I would have done had I not had Corinna, had I not had Gerry. They were so immensely helpful. I can't even remember all the little things they did that I didn't have to do. And Gerry, I mean, when I was ready, after I bathed my mom and all this and that, he always came. Lots of times he came and he carried her. He picked her up and carried her out to put her on the couch for me. And Corinna came many, many times to lay with Oma and to kind of talk to her and visited her. And Oma, now, my mom wasn't quite as expressive with Gerry because we used to tease her a lot when she was still well. But Corinna had always been loving. But when Corinna would come, my mom would go, ah. But you know, Gerry lived in the house and she was used to Gerry. You know, but one thing I have to say is I'm very, very happy that my children lived with a grandmother. A lot of children don't have that. All families have some problems, and our family is no exception. And with all those ups and downs over the years, it has never, never affected my love for you. The only thing that as a mother, I still like to see improve is a genuine love and friendship between Corinna and Gerry, brother and sister. And you never know in older age how you would need each other or anything. And that's beside the point, even if you never need each other. But I would still love to see a genuine brother and sister relationship. I was suffering with that a little bit, but I don't want to see the two of you suffer. God made it available to you that you are close by, you know each other, you can do things together, and I personally truly would love to see more of that. So you can both learn to reach out a little more, and you know, and maybe before I close my eyes, I see a little bit of that. That would make me incredibly happy. I kiss you both, Corinna, Gerry, and I'm just your mom, you know. I will always lecture for you two to get along with each other. But you know, Gerry, I love you so, so much. And oh my gosh, you've been so good to your mom. I could never make it up to you. As good you have been to me. And Dolores, and you're both very, very kind, very giving, and I couldn't have better children than what I have. And you know, whatever goes on, whatever, but in my heart, you're both absolutely wonderful, and you're both incredibly loved. I love you both equally, and that is always how it has been, and that is how it will be until I close my eyes. Love you.